Back once again for another edition of Cape and Today. Today, I am joined by Jason Brisbois. He is a staff reporter for the Cricket. And what I wanted to do was catch up on the phenomenal spring sports season going on at Manchester-Essex Regional High School. How you doing, Jason? Thanks for joining us.
Good, thanks, Kory. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, right off the bat, I mean, I follow the girls lacrosse team.
Yep.
So do you want to go recap that for us briefly?
Yeah, so that's actually sort of the most recent game in the final of the state finals. So Manchester had a couple of teams make it to the Division 4 state finals this year. Girls lacrosse played Dover-Sherborn last night, ended up losing 10-7. They made a game of it. They sort of cut the lead to 9-7 with about 10 minutes to go. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. It was a little bit better of a result from the last time they were there. I think they went in like 2019, and they really didn't have much of a chance in that one. But they were the number one seed. They were 19-3. This was a pretty amazing team, from all accounts.
Yeah. So was there a lot of carryover from the 2019 team where they were?
The interesting thing about the seniors for this year is, and most of the coaches I've talked to have said something similar. They were freshmen in, at 2018, 2019. They ended up having their seasons canceled in 2020 because that was the original COVID outbreak.
Right.
Last season was truncated. So this was really the first season where it was sort of back to normal. And I think it seems like the teams really responded this time around.
Yeah, pretty cool achievement considering the last 2 years and what student athletes have had to go through. Pretty impressive stuff. But also that wasn't the only program that excelled this spring.
Right. The Manchester-Essex baseball team ended up winning state final over the weekend. They beat Seekonk 2-0. Vaughn O'Leary was their ace all season. He was amazing in this one as well. 13 strikeouts. I think he allowed 2 hits and a walk. He was just unbelievable. A couple games before that, he threw a shutout as well. So it was probably, it was the 18 innings worth of shutout ball that this kid threw. And talking to the coach, BJ Weed, he's like, yeah, he's ready to go the next game, even though he's ineligible because of, pitch counts and things like that at this level. But yeah, he was sort of their leader, and he helped them get to the promised land this year.
Yeah. Were you able to, in following the team, can you try to put your finger on the pulse of the team personality? And like, why is it that you see this in high school sports where every now and then there's just like a class that sort of stands out for some reason in a multitude of areas, and it seems that's to be the case this year.
I think the I don't know. I think the teams were hungrier because of the COVID thing that we had mentioned before. I also think a piece of it was they changed the format for high school playoffs for the spring. Traditionally, it was if you hit 500, you qualified, and the better record you had, you were simply seeded based on that, and it was a lot more regional. They switched to something that's a little more like March Madness for college basketball, if you're familiar with that, where record is important. Hitting that 500 point is important, but even more important is sort of strength of schedule. So a lot of the Manchester teams are sort of these hardworking teams, but they're Division 4. It's a smaller school. They played some schools that were much larger than them, and whether they won or lost those during the regular season, that helped their rankings, the RPI for them, and worked in the formula, to their advantage. I also think it helped with seedings. The seedings were a little more realistic when keeping that in mind, because there are some teams that are in really tough divisions and they might have close to a 500 record, but they may end up being a better team than the team that's 15-0, and the rest of their division is terrible.
So across the board, is Manchester-Essex Division 4?
Yeah.
Okay, because I remember even in school, like it always sort of oscillated on whether how many senior boys are playing this sport or how many senior girls were graduating. It was odd.
At the very least, the spring season is across the board Division 4.
Gotcha. So the Manchester's always been known for having strong tennis teams. How'd the tennis teams do this year?
Both very well. The boys ended up in the Elite Eight, lost to Cohasset. But that was a pretty good team. They lose 13 seniors, but get like they lose their like Owen Bapp, John Pope, Remsen Demio, unfortunately. So they lose a good chunk of the team from this year. They return. They have like a freshman who was fantastic, Jack Cummins. Will be back next year for them. So that program is really great. They always seem to be in it. The girls lost to Wareham in the Final Four, which, according to their coach Ed Conley, was a little surprising to him because I talked to him a few times during the season. I'm like, oh, you guys are winning. That's pretty good. And he's like, well, we're young. We've got mistakes and we're kind of overcoming the mistakes, and they're sort of like their singles players were always playing upperclassmen, and they were pretty talented, but they're underclassmen. So it was a pretty impressive run for them to make it all the way to the Final Four, even though that program also traditionally is pretty good. They look scary for next season, really. Those three singles players return. They're upperclassmen now, and everybody that they were playing that was, had a little more experience and maybe was winning against them, they're graduating. So they could be pretty good again next year as well.
Yeah, that's a good feeling going into the summer, knowing that you're going to be strong come next spring. So Jason, I guess we touched upon it a little bit, but did the vibe this sports season just seem like the kids were freer, just more excited, just happy to be out there participating in front of people again?
Absolutely. To a person, each coach was saying that the kids seemed to be really into it. I think that was sort of the driving force behind the baseball team. BJ Weed said this team, he says that this phrase that they look in their eye, they that look in their eye. They were just ready to play. They were prepared. Not a lot of complaining, not a lot of, we don't want to practice today. They were really into it and ready to go. And I think that definitely helped contribute to a really successful season.
Awesome. Any scholarship athletes that you know of moving on?
I don't have that info today.
Yeah, I just threw it out there, but anything else to relay from the sports desk, Jason?
Just that I'll say the boys lacrosse team also had a pretty good year. They made it to the Sweet 16. Their coach was the Cape Ann League Baker Coach of the Year, John Seidowitz. So they've got a pretty good team coming back as well next year, and sort of everything coming up. Manchester, the Manchester-Essex Athletic Department won the Cal Baker Highland Award, which is sort of the award for excellence in athletics, and that includes like academic achievement, community service, winning percentage, that kind of thing. Right. They'll win it every few years because this tends to be a very successful athletic department overall, as we saw this spring. But it's pretty cool to see. We've got a Coach of the Year, we've got the Highland Award coming, and a state final champ. So it's pretty great.
Impressive stuff. Banner season all around. Jason, let's make a point to catch up during the sports seasons just to get filled in. I think it's really cool, especially naming the student athletes by name. And we want to give our props, of course. And we know, especially for the seniors graduating this year and next year, like to have to endure scholastics and athletics through COVID, not easy.
No, absolutely. So, commend them and congrats to them. They really did a great job.
Thanks for your time, Jason. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Kory.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.